Well, hi there. I'm not Kevin. I am the substitute Kevin for today, Christy Winters, here to bring you Trump Dump for the week of whatever week this is. For those of you who miss Kevin, I'm going to put a picture of him up in the corner just so that you don't feel so lonely. Let's get on with Trump Dump. Starting with Friday, the 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day. Donald Trump managed to embarrass himself on the international stage multiple times in a single day. First with the Irish Prime Minister, where Trump got a proverb wrong, and the Irish Prime Minister making a point of discussing immigration in relation to St. Patrick's Day, as we can see here.
It's fitting that we gather here each year to celebrate St. Patrick and his legacy. He too, of course, was an immigrant. And though he is, of course, the patron saint of Ireland for many people around the globe, he's also a symbol of, indeed, the patron of immigrants.
In the other important meeting to take place in the White House on Friday during St. Patrick's Day, the leader of the free world sat down for a meeting with the President of the United States. Trump managed to embarrass America again by pretending not to notice that the press were calling for him and Chancellor Merkel to shake hands.
Thank you. Okay, head up. Thank you, fellas.
The man is such an embarrassment. Not content with making himself look like a fool for the still photos, Donald went ahead and made himself look a fool during the press conference by trying to compare his fanciful, fictional, delusional ideas about President Obama personally tapping his wires in Trump Tower with what was happening between American intelligence services and Merkel a few years ago, as we can see here. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my interpretation of what was going through the Chancellor's mind while Trump was talking.
As wiretapping, I guess, by this past administration, at least we have something in common, perhaps.
You must be out of your goddamn mind if you think the president...
And as long as we're on the topic of Trump humiliating the United States on the international stage, let's talk about his administration trying to throw the British government under the bus, again with this delusional, false, fictional wiretapping story that he came up with the lack of any evidence of surveillance in terms of the documentation of the American government. Trump made the insane choice of quoting some nobody on Fox who speculated that perhaps the British were the ones who were tapping Trump's wires in Trump Tower in order to make sure that there were no American fingerprints on it. Those farcical allegations were dismissed by the British government out of hand, and rightly so. And to wrap up the theme of international diplomacy, Trump tweeted out incorrect information about the way that NATO is financed and was publicly humiliated by somebody much smarter than him, something that happens almost on an hourly, maybe even a minute-by-minute basis. After doing really no good at all for the United States, Trump was off to Florida yet again for more vacationing at taxpayers' expense. He had a quiet Sunday, which was probably needed because the entire rest of the week was a shit show. On Monday, FBI Director James Comey really landed two devastating blows onto the Trump administration. The first was to confirm, with the permission of the Justice Department, that there is no evidence, no matter where they look or how far abroad they go, they cannot find any evidence whatsoever that Trump was surveilled in the way that he described. Perhaps more importantly, the director of the FBI confirmed to the Senate that the current administration, that Trump and his advisors, are under investigation by the FBI for ties with and possible collusion with Russian agents and other Russian officials. The investigation itself has been ongoing for several months, and many people are upset, especially Democrats, at the fact that Comey was talking about Hillary Clinton's emails during the campaign, a topic for which there was no wrongdoing found, And yet the FBI suppressed information that there was a possibility that Russian and Americans were colluding in order to disrupt and overthrow the American election for Trump. The consequence of this is still ongoing. We don't have time in this Trump dump to get involved too much in the Supreme Court nomination of Gorsuch because there's just so much to cover. I'm trying to keep this focus on Trump, but one of the things that has come about as a consequence is that Democrats look to be preparing to filibuster Trump's Supreme Court nominee pick on the grounds that they cannot in good faith appoint someone to a lifetime position when the administration appointing him is currently under investigation by the FBI for possible collusion with our enemies. That was Monday. Before we go any further, Johnny the Wolf, you're passing notes? Well, you're passing notes in class. Is there something in that note that you want to share with the group? No? Okay, well, maybe put your note away until we're done, and then you can catch up with your friends. Trump's creepy relationship with his daughter continues. He's now given her her own office inside the White House, and she appears to be taking on increasing roles even though she doesn't have an official title or role, and there is some weird nepotism stuff going on there that just does not seem right. Speaking of all of the space that the Trump family occupies between maintaining a permanent residence in New York, a permanent residence in D.C., and basically a permanent vacation home for every weekend, Donald Trump is spending taxpayer money hand over fist to the point where the Secret Service needs to ask for more funds because Trump is having a fantastic time with your tax dollars. On Thursday, information came fast and furious. Paul Manafort, former campaign chairman for the Trump campaign, is becoming increasingly a focus of investigation because of his long-term ties to Russian oligarchs, links to Cyprus, which is sort of the money laundering version of the Bahamas for those of you in North America. Thursday was also the day that Republicans scheduled themselves for a vote on repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act with their piece of garbage legislation that basically allows insurance companies to sell crappy policies to people so that they're underinsured and to make more of a profit at the expense of other people's health. I've often said that the Republicans can't govern, and this week has been more evidence in favor of that conclusion. What we have are the Freedom Caucus members who are basically demanding that insurance companies not be required to provide minimal services. Paul Ryan is finding himself having the same problem that John Boehner had, namely that his moderates and his far right-wing conservatives are at such odds that he can't bring unity together with his caucus. And that lack of unity on Thursday night humiliated both the Speaker and the President and Sean Spicer. The administration and the Speaker's office had been saying a vote was going to be going ahead on Thursday. They then had to do an about-face because they didn't have the votes to pass it. Instead, they went into a meeting to talk about it, and Paul Ryan announced after the meeting that on Friday, the vote would proceed. Not that the vote would be won, or that the vote would take place and be successful. He's just going through the procedural motions, knowing that at this point Trump is such a terrible negotiator and not committed to the proposals, and that his own caucus is too divided to come up with a plan that could even get past the Senate. I think Paul Ryan is realizing that it's actually not that easy to take health care away from people when what you're offering is a terrible replacement. In 7 short days, we watched Donald Trump humiliate himself on the international stage with no less than 3 allies. The FBI director announcing to a stunned Congress that actually the president's campaign people are currently under investigation for ties and possible collusion with the Russian government, and his signature healthcare reform, the policy that he said everybody was going to love, it was going to cover everyone with more benefits at a fraction of the cost, looks to be going down in flames. Did Donald Trump have the worst week in Washington? It's really hard to think of anybody else who comes close. Well, class, that is going to be it for the end of our lesson, and it's been lovely to be your substitute host for Trump Dump. And if you've enjoyed the things that you've heard here today, then you should definitely come over to my channel and check it out. I occasionally have Kevin on as a guest, so you'll see him over there as well as over here. Until next time, I've been Christy, you've been awesome, and I'll hopefully talk to you again really soon. Thanks for the chance to do Trump Dump, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Baked potato changed my life. Baked potato showed me the way. If you want to know what is wrong from right, you must listen to what potatoes say.
Do be good, don't be bad.
Baked potato.
Do be happy, don't be sad.
Thank you, baked potato. And if you want to have a better day, you must listen to what the baked potatoes say.
Do be early, don't be late.
Thank you, baked potato.
Always eat what's on your plate.
Thank you, baked potato. And if you want to have a better day, you must listen to what the baked